we talked about the, the quality of life may be affected. Just your morning routine, just your evening routine, the having to live in a home that may not be safe either physically or emotionally, psychologically, or health wise. They're affected by that. Family relationships, people break up over hoarding. Marriages end over hoarding. Children start speaking to parents. Parents start speaking to children. Children are taken from their parents for this. So this is not something, again, we've had our light moments and, we've laughed because, we're friends and we have that banter, but we understand that this is a very serious disorder and it has some very serious consequences. I had one couple who had been married for 30 years and the wife was considering divorce because she found out that her husband had 20 outside storage units over the period of their marriage. And he was paying thousands of dollars a month for these outside storage units. And so it wasn't so much, it was the hoard, but it was the lack of trust. She felt betrayed. And there was a financial aspect because they were high income earners, but they were still suffering financially because he was pouring so much money into 20 storage units. Now, thankfully, I was able to get them into marriage therapy and they stayed together, but, we had to work on that. So this is not, someone hoards in a bubble. It affects, the entire family unit and it's very serious. And there are also legal issues. If you, are in an apartment or a condo and your landlord says, hey, no, you can't live like that. And you're thinking, well, I'm paying rent. I should be able to live any way I want to. Right. Oh, no, that's not. Again, we don't live inside a bubble, so you can't do that. So there may be legal issues, family issues, again, psychological, emotional health issues. Anything that you think that I didn't touch on that, hoarding disorder can affect this person's quality of life?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, one of the dangers for people too is just taking care of yourself in a healthy way. Yes. And it may be basically things like medications. Are my medications stored in the proper way? Can I actually take them in a consistent way that's healthy for me? I've seen that in some patients where they can't find their medications and so they're not taking them consistently. Where you have things like they can't eat healthy meals. As you said, they're holding on to food that may have been expired in their mind, like, oh, it's still good. You just need to do, heat it up and it'll be fine. Yes. So they may be doing things that are just not healthy for themselves and for their bodies and for the other people that may be living with too, because it's not isolation. They may have other people that live in that home. I think the financial ramifications can be huge, like you said. And it doesn't just affect the person with hoarding. It can extend to other family members as well. I've seen a number of cases where you have parents that pass away and the person that struggles with hoarding disorder moves into the parent's home. Yes. Or they may have already been living there. And then you have the siblings where this home may be sort of divided amongst all the family members, but now one person is living there and is bringing more items into the house, which, people are trying to be sensitive to their family members' needs, but also what their own needs are. And this is going to cause bigger problems down the road. So it can definitely be very disruptive to families in terms of relationship, but also financially as well.
Absolutely. I mean, hoarding is it's not inexpensive. It's not cheap unless, of course, they're hoarding, free items. But and also when you talked about, the siblings and, families break up over, well, the house, we want to sell it because it's in such, bad shape, or no, we want to keep it. Well, who's going to clean it out? Well, I'm not. And let me just let you know that to clean out a hoarded home is not cheap. It is the industry, the waste management industry is $1 billion industry for a reason. So, you want to keep that in mind. So that could put a strain on finances. People are often surprised, how expensive it is to have, like a junk removal company come to your home and charge you $500 for half a truck, and you have, $170 worth. So it's not inexpensive and it's not covered by insurance. So, this is an out-of-pocket expense that you have to deal with too. So and then the ramifications of, maybe your employment. If, like you mentioned, you can't take your medicine, and so you become ill, and then you can't go to work. And so it's not, like you said, just in isolation. It affects the family. Who are you going to be able to hoard the entire house? Or if we're married, can our bedroom look like a bedroom? Or, what does that look like? So it's not just also just treating the person with the hoarding disorder. You have to treat the entire unit if there's a family unit. So it can have far-reaching
Yeah.
consequences. Absolutely. So, and there's a lot of anger. I mean, there's a lot anger, resentment. Why don't, even if a person understands the disorder, but I don't understand why they won't do. If they loved me, I get that a lot. If they loved me, they would love their things more than they love me. And let us put a disclaimer out. That is not true. It may seem that way, but that is absolutely not true. That's difficult to get a loved one to understand that they won't throw away things so that they can live, you know, especially for children. Like, I can't bring my friends over because they're going to see, or my family won't let me bring my friends over because they'll be embarrassed. Or again, for the husband or the wife who has to live through this too. So it's, the treatment modality of it has to be, not just treating the person who has the disorder, but the family who has to deal with it. If you can get them into treatment, which is what I was going to segue into. But before I move there, I wanted to talk too about, we touched on the cooking and the cleaning. It's very difficult if you have to move everything to get to the stove every time you want to cook. So you start cooking. Or the personal hygiene. If your toilet isn't working or your bathtub is full and it doesn't work, then what do you do? So there are some issues around that. And you touched on brilliantly the socialization of it, that it can become something that's isolated, or, that causes some distrust among family members or friends. Well, why don't you ever invite me to your house? I had a client who a family member was having an emergency and needed to come over. And so they called and they said, well, I'm 10 minutes. Okay, that's an old cell phone. Pretend it was a cell phone. So they'd be like this. I need to come over for an emergency. And my client said, well, you can't come over. I'm not home. And I guess, the relative didn't care, didn't hear. And the relative came over. And so they said, well, I'm at the door. And my client said, well, I'm not home. And they said, well, I see your car. Well, someone picked me up. And they said, I'm looking at you through the window. And my client honestly said, that's not me. I'm not home. And would not back down from, I can clearly see that that's you. And I'm having an emergency and you're not going to let me in. So that was a rift, because the family member's thinking, why won't you just let me in? But now the humor that my client and I can laugh about was, of course, she was clearly visible, standing there on the phone saying, that's not me. I'm not home. We can still talk about that one to the day. And I think humor, let me just throw that part. Humor is important, not to laugh at, but to laugh through. Humor is very important. But so you'll have that. So it does affect your, socializing and things of that nature. So it's far reaching. Thank you again for taking the time to stop by my channel. And before you leave, give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe, and turn on the bell notification. Do me one other favor, tell at least 5 people you know about my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And if no one has told you today how awesome you are, I want you to know that you are absolutely, positively awesome. Take care. God bless. Bye.